Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Steve Breach coming to you here today. You know when you watch something from back in the day and you remember a match or a moment in wrestling just being freaking awesome? I watched War Game 2000 in order to get ready for the Tony Schiavone podcast, which was uploaded on Monday. Very good show, going back watching, some classic WCW Nitro from the year 2000 during the Vince Russo era. Some very negative, some very good points that were made about what was going on in the company at that time. But even though that match was so bad, it got me on a kick where I wanted to watch some good War Games matches. I think that's because I had to go into the search feature on the WWE Network, and I typed in War Games, and it popped up a lot of great ones. Fall Brawl 1995 put together one of the best groups of baby faces of all time. And this wasn't even the lineup that it was supposed to be. When it was first advertised for Fall Brawl 1995, it was supposed to be the Hulkamaniacs against the Dungeon of Doom. The Hulkamaniacs, of course, being led by Hulk Hogan, teaming with Randy Savage and Sting. And at the time, all the advertising was pointing towards Vader being the fourth member of this team. Of course, in this time period, Vader ended up getting fired from WCW because of his attitude and because of a backstage incident where he got in a fist fight, where he ended up getting knocked out by I'm not going to say crippled Mr. Wonderful, but we'll at least throw in the point of, Mr. Wonderful didn't have full use of one of his arms, and he was wearing flip-flops in the locker room at the time, but the man stood up to Vader, knocked him out, and Vader ended up leaving the company and going to work for WWF. But of course, for a lot of people, this really hurt his status as being one of the true tough guys in wrestling. Let's just get to the point of that. This show has the Hulkamaniacs, has Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Lex Luger, and Sting. What four members are you going to put up against this team to make it believable that people want to pay? I'm going to guess a pay-per-view in 1995 cost $25 to $30. And I'm going to give you this. Arn Anderson and Ric Flair are feuding at the time, and there is no Four Horsemen. So they can't use them as a team. They use the Dungeon of Doom, Kamala, the Zodiac, Shark, and Ming. Kevin Sullivan was at ringside, but not inside of this match, even though he was the leader of the Dungeon of Doom. So basically, you have Kamala, you've got Brutus the Barber Beefcake, you've got Earthquake, and you've got Haku out there. I'm not going to knock these guys. Kamala had a very long run in wrestling where he was a believable heel, but in 1995, I think that he'd already been used up and sort of shown as sort of a goof in the WWF, and him coming to WCW was just sort of like a last-ditch effort on his career. What can you say about Brutus the fucking Barber Beefcake? That hasn't been said before. The man with 9,000 names in the world of professional wrestling. Honestly, the Zodiac, I believe, is better than the Booty Man, but it's definitely one of the least threatening aliases of Brutus the Barber Beefcake. You've got the Shark, who definitely had his run in WWF, but his run in WCW never really got off the ground. Even when he was wrestling, he was supposed to be a member of the Team Piper, where basically Piper just got four bums out of the back, and he ended up being one of the guys. I don't even know if they called him John Tenta or if they just gave everybody no names, but the segment was so bad on Nitro, they ended up scrapping the match and just getting Piper. I think Flair ended up tagging with him and somebody else, but Ming, one of the real tough guys of wrestling, but he was not going to be able to help out this team at all. This match, honestly, in my opinion, even though it goes 19 minutes, is really fast. and nothing ever really gets off of the ground. I didn't watch any of the lead up. But I'm guessing this is the time period where WCW Nitro was getting off the ground. And even though Hogan, Savage, Luger, and Sting are all teaming together, I think at this point they were running the storyline where Luger and Sting were teaming together, but Luger was sort of showing signs of being a heel when Sting wasn't looking, and Savage was sort of always pointing at Luger, trying to expose him as being a heel, which led to heat between Savage and Sting, Luger and Savage, and I think Luger just really wanted to beat up Sting but didn't have the guts to do it. Sting ended up, being the guy to kick off this match, going into it against the Shark, and Shark basically just beat him up. And let me just tell you this: I talked about this in the WCW 2000 War Games Russo's Revenge review that's available in the archives now from a few days ago. But basically, what it comes down to is WCW did a lot of things that made sense when you're backstage talking about it. But they also overstepped their grounds by also booking a lot of things that were not in their production's, best interest. I can honestly say this War Games, with the match being so big, 2 rings, 1 cage surrounding everything. There's so much action going on it that, it's hard to get it all. I understand that when there's 8 guys inside of the ring and everybody's fighting each other. But when this match was simply just a one-on-one contest between Sting and the Quake, basically they missed a huge move by the camera guys on the outside trying to shoot Savage and Hogan, watching the match. Sting ended up doing a comeback move where he was getting beat on by the Quake, where he basically ran off the ropes in ring number 1 and basically just bombed his way from ring 1 into ring 2 to sort of take out the Quake. And you see it as like an after shot inside of the ring. You hear the crowd erupt, you see Savage and Hogan cheer for it, and it's in the background. You don't even really see it. You see Hogan cheering that Sting was able to get momentum in the match. And then, of course, in WCW heel fashion, the heels win the coin toss, where they will gain the advantage. And this is where the ring starts to fill up with guys. Every 2 minutes, another person's let in, but the heels always have the advantage. At one point, we see Luger and Savage actually get into a fight before Hogan gets into the ring, and Hogan has to come in and try and break this up. There's always been sort of a connection when you're looking at Hogan, basically saying that even though Hulk Hogan is the biggest babyface of all time, before he went to the NWO, before he was Hollywood Hogan, Hulk Hogan, looking back, was possibly one of the biggest heels in professional wrestling. Whether if he was grabbing the tights, whether if he was beating on Sherry, whether if he was stealing Miss Elizabeth from Macho Man Randy Savage, who was supposed to be his best friend. He comes into War Games, albeit there's no rules, but the baby faces shouldn't be the guys bringing, salt to throw into the heels' eyes to gain the advantage. Hulkamania runs wild. He's able to break up the Savage and Luger fest, and then basically makes the Zodiac tap out to the camel clutch, where he humbles him right there in the middle of the ring. A pre-match stipulation to this match basically says that if the Hulkamaniacs won this match, Hulk Hogan would be able to get the Taskmaster alone inside of the cage for a one-on-one encounter. The minute the bell rings, we hear Tony Schiavone saying that Kevin Sullivan is running for the exit. He does not want any part of Hulk Hogan, and he is met by one member of WCW security who is not Doug Dillinger. I don't know who this man is, but this one man in a suit is physically able to keep Kevin Sullivan from leaving the arena. Kevin Sullivan, who at the time, even though he is a shorter man, did not try and swing, did not try to duck and jive past him, just walked up to him. A guy sort of held him and said, "You're not leaving," and he was like, "Fuck it, I guess I'm not." The man is frantically calling for extra security to come over because I think how he knows how ridiculous he looks. One member of security from the arena wearing the yellow shirts comes out. The biggest geek you've ever seen. This is not a guy from the power plant. This is not a guy that is a local indie wrestler. This is a straight up geek off the streets who came out to help this member of WCW security restrain the Taskmaster, who's supposed to be one of the biggest heels in WCW at the time. He is made to come back down to ringside. He's made to get back into the cage. And basically, as Hogan is trying to take Sullivan to task, we see the Giant make his way from the back. I'm not quite sure if this is the Giant's debut. I think he had already been in the company at the time, but it is treated as this is a big deal. Even though I'm pretty sure that we've seen, if we've already seen him, I know the Giant won the championship in his first debut match for WCW, which means if Hogan was the champion on this show, he would have had to have beat the Giant already. But I'm not 100% sure about that. So the Giant is able to get into the cell even though Savage, Luger, and Sting are all on the outside of it. No one tries to make the save. No one tries to enter the cage. The Giant basically wields his way in there, takes Hogan to task where he chokes him down and leaves him laying. The heels just walk out. Now the babyfaces finally try to get in and try and help Hogan. And of course, this is where the show fades to black as Tony Schiavone says, "I hate to leave you like this, but we'll see you on Monday Nitro." That's it. 95 War Games. Not the best. Might be one of the worst. But that's it.